I've said it many times. I wish that there was a class at school about emotions, boundaries, relationships, and not only maths, history, all the other practical, of course, knowledge. Of course, I understand the use of it, but the real skills that we need in order to deal with life in adulthood, I don't think we got it. How to deal with emotional crisis. This is what I would like to discuss with you today. I think it's important because many times we feel paralyzed, or even worse, we are many times more overwhelmed by what's happening in our lives and by the fact that we don't know how to deal with emotions and with the fact that we experience something uncomfortable. We're not comfortable with discomfort. We're not comfortable with emotions such as anger, sadness, uncertainty, rejection, disappointment. We're not comfortable with that. We will do anything to avoid these emotions, these feelings. What I would like to discuss with you today is how to deal with emotional crisis. And let's figure out what helps in these difficult, challenging moments. My name is Vassia. I'm a psychologist, and I'm here to talk about something very important: how we can be more proactive in our emotional well-being. I'm sharing my tips, my reflections, my insights from the psychology world in order to build better mental health and stronger relationships. I'm going to share the strategies that I believe are the most effective in order to deal with an emotional crisis. The first thing that we need to do, and that's also the feedback that I get from people that they feel emotionally overwhelmed in an emotional crisis, is understand your emotions, understand what is an emotional crisis, what's happening to you at the moment. When we talk about emotional crisis, we're talking about something intense, a state of intense emotional distress that happens, and it affects our ability to cope with life. We are not able to cope. Things that used to be normal, they seem to be overwhelming because of this emotional distress that is happening in our life. The reason or common triggers that usually activate this emotional crisis can be a traumatic event that is happening, a breakup, for example, or hearing some very upsetting news, experiencing loss in our life, a sudden change, major life changes, or relationship issues. That can be the trigger for an emotional crisis. And keep in mind that two things. One thing is that emotional crises are a normal part of human experience. Usually we think that we are the only ones experiencing something like that, but actually we're not. It's a very common human experience. We're all part of it. And the second thing that I want you to remember is that we all deal with that in a different way. There are many ways. Sometimes we think that we have only one way to cope with emotional crisis, but actually there are many ways. It's just we're feeling more familiar with the way we are coping, and that's why we're overusing that mechanism. And you're actually here now because you're realizing that why I'm coping with emotional crisis such way, it doesn't work anymore. I need to figure out a different way. What I would like to say as a first step is name it. Just name what is the feeling that you're feeling at that moment. Give it a name. Usually when we ask people, what are you feeling? Like, oh, it's bad, it's awful, it's the worst. Or if it's a nice situation, oh, it's good. So we know good and bad. But there's a term in psychology called emotional granulation. It means that the more granular you make that understanding of your emotion, the more in control of it you are. When you can find a more specific word for your emotion, you are more able to pair it with the need that you have. Of course, it's missing, and that's why you're experiencing that emotion. So it's another thing to say, I'm feeling bad. It's another thing to say, I'm feeling sad. That's a little bit more specific than bad. While it's another thing to say, I'm feeling disappointed, or I'm feeling lonely, or I'm feeling rejected. You see, it's getting more and more and more granular. more specific. When I'm saying I'm feeling bad, I'm not actually, when you hear somebody saying I'm feeling bad, you don't have any idea what to do to help them. Many ideas, but not something specific. But when they say I'm feeling sad, you kind of have a better clue what it is that you can do. And when they say I'm feeling rejected or disappointed, you have a better clue on what to do to help them. I can share with you the emotion wheel. Probably you've seen it already. See how many experiences we have: joy, love, fear, anger, sadness, surprise. And then it gets even more specific. So many words. I'm going to say it with you if you want in the comments. And related to that step is find the name of your feeling and where you feel it in your body. That's even more specific. The next step that we want to do is realize that we are the main responsible people for taking care of our emotions, because we think that we need somebody else to make us happy or to make us feel more comfortable. But actually, we are the main responsible because it's our feelings, it's our emotions. So we first and foremost need to figure out what we're going to do in order to feel calmer or more in peace. This is where self-care and emotional regulation comes. Self-care and self-compassion. I would like to put these two together. What would I do if a friend was going through an emotional crisis? How would I make sure that they are feeling safe? Would I invite them or suggest them to cancel work for today and stay at home? I need to do the same. Maybe it's such a huge overwhelm that you need to cancel work. There's no point in you pressuring yourself and putting yourself out there and pretending that there's nothing happening, or even worse, giving energy from an empty energy tank. There's no point in that. So especially for today, and especially if something huge is happening, major change in your life, maybe you need to cancel work and stay at home and take care of yourself. That's self-care and self-compassion combined, because it helps us regain our emotional balance. It helps us stay with ourselves when we need us most. Emotional regulation means that we are practicing breathing. We are practicing to connect with our body. Progressive muscular relaxation. You can Google it if you haven't seen it before, you haven't heard it before. Trying to connect with our breathing. And breathing, when it's done in a normal, in a safe pace, it helps our brain get again the message that you're safe. It's okay. I got you. We're here and we're gonna figure it out eventually. That's the safe message that gets our brain when we are breathing in a normal pace. Journaling helps a lot because you're just pouring your thoughts and your emotions on paper, and you're more able to manage these overwhelming emotions. When you are able to ground yourself, be in the present moment, it helps you from not spiraling. It prevents you from spiraling into negative thoughts, terrifying projections for the future, or regrets about the past. These two don't help at all. It makes things worse. Thoughts and feelings become even more overwhelming. Grounding yourself and being in the present moment and breathing, practicing emotional regulation helps you to stay in the present moment. What also helps? Exercise. Just do something that moves your body. It helps with the hormones. Go out for a walk, and you don't need to go to the gym if you don't want to see people. Just go for a walk around the block. Just go in nature, find a park and you walk there, and allow yourself and your senses to connect with the environment instead of being in this overwhelming state that you are at this moment that you cannot handle. Allow yourself to not have the answers. Sometimes we feel like we have to resolve it now, here, today, but sometimes it's not possible. We have to let it sit. We have to wait. We have to see what happens tomorrow. Sometimes we cannot change anything right now. So allowing yourself to not fix it right here allows yourself also to release this burden that you put on your shoulders. And last step, seek for support. Don't forget, you don't have to go through this all by yourself. family, friends, support groups. When I struggle with my health, sometimes I go to Facebook and I read groups with people that they're struggling with the same health issue that I'm struggling. And then I find comfort because there are many people that they have been through that, and they're supportive to and compassionate towards each other. So maybe a support group might help, a forum, or of course a mental health professional. This is when you realize that some emotional crises are even more overwhelming and you cannot manage them, and you definitely need somebody objective, somebody from the external environment that can give you not only comfort but also evidence-based techniques and tools so that you can use them. So, as I said before, everybody deals with emotional crisis in a different way. So try to find what works for you and create a routine, realistic goals and plans. Try also to engage in hobbies. And what I usually say is that it's great to practice self compassion while you are facing an emotional crisis. But sometimes it's really difficult to do it when the first time you practice it is in the emotional crisis. While when you have started practicing self-compassion before the crisis, just as an everyday routine, your journaling, your self-compassion talk, your understanding of your self-talk, you will be even more prepared, and it will come easier to you and more automatic when you are struggling with an emotional crisis. It's more difficult when you practice for the first time. Practice patience and self-compassion, as we said. Let me know your comments, let me know your questions, let me know if there was something unclear, or if you would like some more tips on some of these points that I shared with you today. Thank you very much for being here. Take good care of yourself.